There we go. Oh, there we are, everybody. How we doing? By the way, I didn't think I was going to do anything today either. Good for you. I know you missed me. As you can hear in my voice, I've been a little busy here in October. I've been meeting a lot of great and awesome people. Just really cool. And I definitely want to make sure that you guys. Oh, I see one of the problems here. Let's connect the internet. What do you say? Everything's shaky. Ugh. Every once in a while, you just got to clean up your workspace. You know what I mean? Anyways, I'm seeing you guys jump in there. Yeah, I was playing with things again on my desk. So, what a week, man. What a week. And of course, I want to start doing this kind of fun thing. I've been tossing it around for a while. Oh yeah, now I'm connected to the internet. Yeah, I don't know what that means right now. Don't touch anything. It's fine. Don't touch it. All right. Or touch it again. Either way. Um, it has been a very kind of cool. Navy has sailors and admirals. Dig the name. Thank you for being on the channel. So for me, I'm a medium in the middle of October. I'm busy, crazy. And by the way, I'm getting people's messages. I'm sorting through all these emails, and I wish I had a little more time to kind of like prepare written stuff. But I want to just show, like, I've got to kind of take it out of context because a lot of times, some of these emails, sometimes they get real specific, or they tell stuff about their story, and that's not the reason for doing the mailbag. Sometimes people come up with really good questions, and then sometimes people have just have an axe to grind, and they're kind of funny. They're funny to me because it's like you know that a lot of times when somebody's like angry in their message, they just have unchecked or unresolved stuff, right? And I'm Medium Brandon Russ, and I have a message for you. I want to remind you guys that people are very triggered right now. They're triggered for a lot of reasons. And, the political climate, even though I've kind of unplugged myself a little bit, I'm really inspired to just plug right the fuck back in. Oh, I'm sorry. Was it within 5 minutes? No, it wasn't. That's why we have a little buffer. I'm not political when I'm delivering messages, like, at all. Like Spirit's just kind of like oh, that's fun. Oh, that's you human stuff. But I think it's also, I think it's kind of, there's a level of hysteria going on right now, in a level of just like willful ignorance. Can I just call it willful ignorance? And I used to kind of get on these and talk about and bitch about, things inconsistent with astrology. Well, the astrology of a new moon is, on one side, it's a sense of renewal, kind of an emptying the tank. You got to push yourself. It's a time to, purge whatever's not there so that you can let in other things. But I cannot for the life of me understand how George Santos just got pardoned. Like, the January 6th people, like, really got a pass because they were a political pawn. I mean, these are people that hurt other people. These are people that had clear whatever. And you know what? Have your convictions and do your time. Bernie did. A lot of other people did. John Lewis did. And I'm watching somebody that literally, like, his product is lying. And then you see Mike Johnson basically say, well, if he ever gets back to Congress, we'd welcome him with open arms. We are morally bankrupt, completely and morally bankrupt with the current leadership. And by the way, how was Salem, you ask? Danielle, it was fantastic. It was a really great experience. everything from the entire experience to Salem itself, the people I was with. Um, it's just, and the other people that I met that I didn't know yet, old friends came and were, just for a little, the S and G's, the shits and giggles. Um, if you've read my book, funny you should say that. Um, there is only one person that has ever been kicked out of one of my shows, like literally kicked out of the venue. Anyways, she was on the bus tour. She's like, "What are you gonna do? Leave me in Salem?" We might. We might. So, with that in mind, you know, um, I loved it because it was a historical thing. And by the way, I got a little slideshow. Hope you guys hang out. Hi, Rita. Oh yeah. Put your books on Audible. So funny you should say that. So I plan out my stuff, and I already kind of have the production time set aside. I just have to make sure my voice is in order. In the middle of this, with this very busy week, I had things like basically every night of the week and shows and home party. And by the way, Kirkland in Clinton, New York, you guys did not disappoint at all. That was a packed house. That was fantastic. We saw our old friends down in Hudson on Sunday. Always great to see Shannon. It's a great venue. By the way, the bassist of Fish is playing there in a couple of days. Also, he has two or three other really kind of like quote unquote secondary, musicians that are part of bigger bands, but they're working on solo stuff, and they love going to Shannon's place. The sound was fantastic. The venue was like super laid back. And again, saw some old friends there and all of that. So, really great. And of course, Salem and then home parties along the way. I'm meeting like super great people, right? Well, people send me messages all the time. A lot of times, and I kind of joke around about this where, I joke around and I say, hey, listen, here's my email, brandon@spiritualconnections.com, which by the way is about to go away. But, hey, brandon@spiritualconnection.com. You can jump onto it and send me an email, and you're going to send me an email that says, hey, remember that time that you said this was what was going on, or this was going to come through? And I'm like, no way, whatever. Well, Brandon, you were right. So I want to have a little bit of fun with this, and I've had a couple of people even in recent memory kind of do this. And again, I'm just going to kind of read them off of there. You got to trust me that these are things, and maybe down the road I'll type out the part just so that you can kind of visually see it. But there's also some real asshats out there. So one of the cool byproducts of the Salem trip was it was on the No Kings protest day. You guys, you should leave very little to the imagination as to which side of the aisle I'm on, but I'm not really even on an aisle. I have not liked, I do not like, and I will stand behind my intuition here and tell you that someday it will be completely exposed how much this election was stolen, how much the skullduggery that is going on here is an agenda that is not consistent with what should really be going on. I will also tell you that there are agents of really kind of negative energy going on here. And this isn't about being spooky. This isn't about the Antichrist. This isn't about whatever. This is just about the gut feeling that I have when they said, well, this is the guy that won. Every bone in my body, and I've done over 30,000 readings in my career. And I am here to tell you the bullshit meter went off so high that it caused me to go into sheer conspiracy. They will expose that Elon Musk had a direct inclination into the voting machines. By the way, they had complete access to them post the 2020 election because, of course, that is the time that they grifted the entire the entire catalog of the technology so that then they can figure out how to get into it. Once they get into the technology, then they can figure it out. It doesn't take a rocket surgeon. By the way, I don't care if you're a foreign or domestic agency, you're going to be able to do it, right? I mean, my 12-year-old has figured out my passcode on the TV at least twice. He's a little bit of a hacker. We also call him meal ticket. So there's that. But the other dynamic to this too is how much light workers have become a target. We have to pay attention, and we got to keep our head on a swivel. I've been talking to a lot of people that there really is a calm right now in a lot of ways. And by the way, I'm going to share some pictures of the protests. I'm here to tell you that there wasn't an ounce of anger or whatever. And of course, there's, dipshits and Trump trucks and, flags and honking and flipping people off. And yet everybody just waved, cheered them on. Thanks for coming. You have a freedom to do that. Like literally, that's what people were shouting. Enjoy your freedom to do that. And then, of course, it gets mean on social medias. And that's actually one of the things I want to share with people. I posted a picture. And by the way, I'm just kind of pulling this together. How do you like my production quality work right here? It's kind of fun. And and I want to share that picture, but just a couple of things. This is me right in center square right there in Salem. This is me with good old Samantha. Elizabeth Montgomery, who, by the way, there's actually a funny story behind it. Elizabeth Montgomery got really mad when she was hired to go to Salem for some, promotional thing. And people were asking her, basically assuming that she was actually a witch, and if they could show her how to do a spell. It's unclear whether the person was asking kind of tongue in cheek or not, but she got so upset she never went back because she's like, these people are crazy. Well, yeah, they're called fans. It's short for fanatic, Elizabeth. That's the way it works, right? And listen, that entire crew there, the bus crew, Yankee Trails, if you're in upstate New York and you like day trips, leave the driving to them. Hate to sound like an advertisement, but we had a good schedule. You can sleep on the way or listen to a fun bag like me. And then, driving on the way home, shut your eyes, get rested up. In my case, it was the reason why I was able to do it all, was because I was able to rest on the way back, even though my voice is not 100%. Oh, by the way, somebody mentioned about the Audible. In my schedule in November, I am finishing that. It should be out before Thanksgiving. I just have a couple of chapters I need to kind of re-record, but just got to make sure the pipes are up and running. And by the way, it's funny, as I've been reading these, and I have some other news. I'm kind of keeping it to myself because I want to make sure I get the reward and the award and whatever. But I mentioned a while ago that it was a finalist for some poetry was going to be recognized. I've gotten word that it's good to go. I'm waiting for some stuff in the mail. I want to be able to show it. Anyways, so yeah, exactly, Alec. Totally stolen. So here I am downtown having a lot of fun, carrying on. This is me and Beetlejuice. I don't know if you know this or not. So it's kind of like a bunch of street performers. And by the way, if you're across the country, never gotten to Salem, here's a little taste of it. These people, everybody dresses up. It's a big cosplay thing, really. It's like Comic-Con on Halloween steroids. And I thought this one was really, really good. He's kind of the part, right down to the disturbing teeth. That was a lot of fun. And basically every single person that's been in a slasher movie, Michael Myers is just strolling around. Some are better than others, whatever. And it's like anything else. Some of them are good, some of them are not so good. I actually got a reading while I was there, which is something I don't typically run and do, but I'm like, listen, nobody knows who I am here, I think. Sort of. But anyways, I had one of the best readings I've ever had. She used Egyptian reincarnate cards, and she was really on point. She actually really talked about me being in the middle of this transition and pulling people out of darkness and into light. It was like she knew what she was saying, which is why I know it was authentic, if that makes sense. So she was a great conduit. And I think I have a new friend in this work because she was super. Um, so yeah, hanging out with Beetlejuice. Oh yeah, I met Jesus as well. We were looking up at the Father. We had a lot of fun with this one. We had a lot of fun with this one. It was a little weird, he's smoking a pack, he's hanging out. It's a lot of fun. He also he did offer me his body and blood afterwards. I thought that was a little touch weird. Kind of a touch weird. But fun nonetheless. If this picture doesn't make you laugh, nothing else will. So one of the things that I saw there was the no kings, no ice, no fear. Immigrants are welcome here. This is in a shop, and I actually saw more than one of these. Now, Massachusetts as a whole is a pretty liberal state, although it's a conservative Democrat, state, Commonwealth. Even with the home of Kennedy and Michael Dukakis. I'm sorry, too early to laugh at that. I find that they've always been very conservative. Like, they are not flamboyantly Democrat. And I say that from the standpoint of they're not trying to shove it down your throat. You go to Vermont, they kind of try and shove it down your throat. If that's kind of a little bit of a feel. But Massachusetts and Connecticut tend to be a little more conservative. New York tends to be a little more like, well, does it make sense? Oh, okay. Does this affect me? Okay. Like, so there are different types of Democrats. And in spite of all of this kind of like hate mongering, and this is where I want to read one of these things. So I had a home party, and I got a really cool message from a woman. I'm going to read that one second. But this one I want to read to you, and it was kind of funny because, and I'm gonna jump back into this here for a second, because I posted this. Wait, hold on a second. This picture, basically, I had another one where it was a little bit of a tighter shot. Massachusetts opposing tyrants since 1765. Well, I was trying not to be overly political about my visit in Salem for some obvious, business reasons. Like, I don't want the group to turn around and be like, oh, yeah. Well, I'm telling you a story to tell you this one. I got this message through Facebook. And by the way, not the best way to get a hold of me, but whatever. So I'm going through everything because I'm cycling through, making sure I'm catching stuff. I am a one-man show. And this is kind of an interesting thing. Hey, just to let you know, you're not a very good medium. Do you know why I know that? Because you should know the difference between what a king is and what a president is. Just to let you know, we are winning the battle of subtlety. I saw you at, name a venue. We'll keep them out of this. And I watched you really struggle with a friend of mine who had no less than 5 people die in their life. Hey, I got news for all of you. We've all had a few people that have passed. You botched up the reading, and I later realized that you have Trump derangement syndrome. Okay. How can you be a good medium at all? By the way, my friend left and swore that they would never go back. They called you a con artist. Okay. Donald Trump is saving this country. Donald Trump is saving this country. Now I'm realizing from people like you who go out and make people feel hope, to give them hope and give them promises of being able to give them closure. The English language is definitely at risk here with the rest of this message, but I'll just bear with me. I'm stumbling. My friend left disheartened also when I shared with them the picture that you posted and other videos you've done. They said clearly he's not one of us. Fucking what? Okay. I saw your post again on Saturday, from Saturday, and of course you're wasting time at a rally. Duh. Trump is not a king, he's a president, or you wouldn't be able to do those things. So you understand that the person is trying to villainize me for defending. They don't understand that, first of all, it's the First Right Amendment. And second of all, I am 6 foot tall. I have blue eyes, blondish, grayish, brownish hair. I fit a demographic that they targeted, and I have stories about how I've been targeted to. And this has nothing to do with Trump. This is before Trump. This is during the Rush Limbaugh / underswell of Christian nationalism. And I resisted. As a matter of fact, if you read Funny, you should say that, or hear it when it comes out on Audible. You will hear me tell the story about a pastor that tried to recruit me to be a pastor for them because of my charisma and otherwise well-spoken way about me. It is in that moment that I made the choice that I need to use this gift for good. It was great to get the attention. It was horrible what they were offering, as they threw back their glasses of whiskey and telling me, how much money do you want to make? The number of souls you save is the number of cars you drive and shit like that. I'm here to tell you it's a real thing, especially when you're 6 foot tall, well-spoken with blue eyes. It's just a thing. So this person went on to say, you need to save yourself just like the rest of the country. We will never be attending anything of yours again, and please unsubscribe me. Okay. And I will have little sympathy for you if and when your children are taken away from you. Okay. Now you're getting personal. So, person, who, by the way, I'm about to hit send on this message. Dear person, thanks for watching. I think that common discourse and arguments of opinion are vital to not only spiritual development, but also the development of a country that has rights, in recognizing that privileges can be taken away at any time. I don't find value in anything that you've written, however, because of course you have taken a side that I don't align with. You have aligned yourself with predators. You don't realize that you are actually one of the people they are preying on. As I stand up for people that are marginalized, understand that I'm also siding with people like you, the undereducated and the willfully ignorant. You don't understand what empowerment you've given to them because they care about your energy. See also your message to me. Thanks so much for being on my journey. It's been a valuable lesson. And might I remind you that everything is energy. My inability to read your friend was probably directly related to the energy of them. I'm sorry for your loss. And I've done many readings over my career. And there is one true thing. I'm human. I don't get everything. let alone anything always right. But what I do have is an authenticity. After understanding who you are supporting, I understand why you don't understand how I work. You're too busy being told what to do. You're too busy being told promises. And for once, I actually delivered something that was true. And that was, you need to figure it out on your own. Best of luck of you always. You are not welcome at any of my shows. And send. I'm not going to justify some of the undercutting stuff there. But I want to share another one. This one's kind of fun. And by the way, I go off screen when I do this. She said some things about identifying herself, so I got to kind of be careful here. Hey, Brandon, I was at your thing the other night. Let's just go out there. You totally pegged me as somebody that was dragged there. I thought that was funny. And then I also thought, was it my seriously bad looking face? I also have resting bitch face. So sorry, I'm working on it. Please be patient. I have resting bitch face. Please be patient. Anyways, you said during our time together, you'll probably message me at some point and say, oh my God, I remember all of this, period. I want to start by saying I actually feel bad about my lack of memory of my entire family. Holy crap. Everything you said was my grandmother to a T. I called my mom on the way home and she started laughing, she kept going, oh my God, you had a medium basically tell you who your grandmother was in no uncertain terms. And you basically said, no way. Anyways, I want to tell you that my mom told me that she was still holding the cameo that I was supposed to get from the will. She broke down and cried and said, I can't believe you've never asked me for it. It started a bit of an argument, but I went to go pick it up on Sunday. I want to tell you that my mom also shared all the pictures from the funeral that I didn't have time to see because I was too busy running around being the caterer. You're right. I just like to stay busy. Anyways, I'm going to wear the cameo to a show one of these days. I don't really care if you pick up on it. I just want to complete the circle to honor my grandmother. That message was so powerful, and yet I didn't even realize it was a message for me. Also, my mom wants a reading. I'll set it up at some point, and we've got to get you to the place that they live. I also want to tell you that as much as this email is about me, you helped my friend Susan. I shouldn't have said her name. Oh, actually, I just didn't read it right. Her name is not Susan. By the way, I might not even be saying any of these right. Anyways. No, see, I don't. Her name isn't Susan, though. It's an S name. Anyways. S had been through a lot, and you really delivered what she needed to. I'm just trying to edit out some specifics here. The whole room actually wanted us all to get together with a medium specifically for her. The idea that you came to her so early and really set the tone for the entire night blew us all away. That's part of the reason why I couldn't remember even who my grandmother was, let alone the cameo pin. I've seen a few mediums over the years, and I've never seen anybody take time in a reading to deliver what I needed. By the way, the one comment that you made to pick on the, quote, orange guy, I found funny, but you didn't realize you were in a room full of Trumpers, did you? I also love that didn't affect anything that you did. You didn't care what their politics were. You cared about their healing, and you saw everybody as a human, including me. Thanks again, B. We'll see you guys soon. I kind of like this mailbag idea. Because for every really crappy, vainly, I'm going to threaten you bullshit. By the way, the only thing that she was missing from that first email is that I'm going to go to hell. Like that, they usually put that in there somewhere too. Even though they actually paid for a ticket to come see me, I'm the one that's going to go to hell for what I do. Whatever. Shave my eyebrow and sing Pink Floyd all day if you want. I'll go full Bob Geldof. So, what do we learn here? I have worked really hard from the professional standpoint of being a good medium, right? The idea that, and by the way, I'm not trying to shame anybody. That's why I don't want to like show the whole story and I skipped over some parts and whatever. But just to kind of give you the gist of both of them is that, I totally respect those people. And by the way, they have to respect my boundaries too. I actually spent a full half hour going into my system, which by the way, I'm trying to fix so you guys get all my emails again. And put them in there as a flag. And I think I found the person too, but they bought it through a venue, so I don't, they signed up for the email afterwards. But anyways, to flag it so they can't purchase anything. I don't want to see them again. And again, they have the right to change, but I'm not their person. Okay. And sometimes we get hung up on not being somebody's person. Sometimes we're somebody's person for a day. Sometimes we're somebody's person for a season. And I know this because I've seen the evolution of people in my life, and it really does just keep getting better. It just does. And that's not a knock on the people from back there, although some of them deserve a knock. But most of them don't. They were just in the season that they were supposed to be in. And that person that was hypercritical and just wants retribution and whatever, they need to learn a lesson in this life, but I'm not the one to teach it. And I think that's one of the things about Christian nationalism is how overreaching it is, that it has to provide. It has to be the hero. It has to be the whatever. It is this administration thinking that, they're going to go around and keep pushing everybody. And then when you push them back or you just resist in some way, you're the bad guy. This is bully 101 shit. It is also the sign of a highly unregulated deep trauma. That's what we're dealing with. That email, once upon a time, I would have been flipped out. Like, I'm sensitive to the kids, right? I'm sensitive to things. But I also know that they're generally harmless. And that's not to say that they wouldn't love a conflict with me if they ran into me while I was getting my coffee or something. Because I've had that happen too. But for every one of those shitbag mailbag messages that I got 50 of the other ones. Probably more, but 50 plus of the other ones. And I want you to recognize what happened in both of those emails, both of those messages, rather. In one of them, they just unloaded on me. They just literally unloaded on me. This sucks. You suck. It sucks. You're not good at this. You're not whatever. Not recognizing that they are any part of the equation whatsoever, that maybe they didn't do any of their work to do any of their grief management at all. And it's hard work. I get it. But don't go blaming me. I'm not the one still stuck at home missing them. By the way, you can sign up for signs from loved ones. Just go to the website, tbrandonruss.com. Pay what you will. It's in a couple of weeks. It's right before Thanksgiving, and it will really help you work through the holidays. Oh, I'm sorry. Am I busy helping people? The second message was ingratitude. First of all, it was done with humor, right? Second of all, she pointed out that I really didn't care about anybody's politics, which I think was important to this conversation. And by the way, I didn't know that they were Trumpers or not Trumpers. I didn't, whatever. I'm here to tell you that there were people in that room that needed help. This week alone, I have enough for another book, just this week alone, with the experiences that I've had. Because I also want to tell you about walking through the protest. So, my friends. No, Nadia. Well, thank you. Oh my gosh, the mac and cheese. I always remember it's you when you mention mac and cheese. Thank you, kid. Which, by the way, I'm also going to be announcing an online message circle that I'm going to have here between the holidays here. And in the second one, it was about helping them, right? So that was actually, those two things were actually a compliment, that not only am I self-regulated, but I'm doing something right. 1 out of 50 are criticizing me, and the other 49 are sending me thank yous. I'm doing okay, right? Well, when I was at the protest, and again, I'm a pretty solid person, and I know this because in our group shot, I think I just hang out with nothing but short people. I am like this tall, this much taller than everybody else. Like, I'm just like, hi, how you doing? Welcome to my village. I give you no harm. I will get everything on the top shelf. Anyways, thank you for laughing at that. Oh, Daniel, I'm glad I did. Thank you for that. And yeah, Deb, So, we're walking down the street and we come up on the protest, and I turn to our group and I go, I'll be right back. And they were just like, oh shit, here we go. And I went running right into it. Well, I'm going to go back to this. So I probably took about 50 pictures. By the way, there were no protesters that were violent at all. They were holding up their signs. They were looking for people to honk at them. We had the Trump truck go by, scream obscenities, get a job. It's a Saturday, dude. You guys go back to your own country. Fucking card-carrying member of us. Right? But this one struck me. This land was made for you and me. By the way, we were getting really close to getting this country right about 15 years ago. And by the way, if you follow my politics, I was not a big fan of Obama overall. He did some good things, but there was we have had presidential bullshit and shysteriness for a long time. And then on the right-hand side here, you see silence is violence, and I am a 6 foot tall, blue-eyed, fair-skinned male. Let that sink in. Empath isn't weakness. That sign there in the middle that's a little shaded out. That's the one I want you to pay attention to. Empathy is not a weakness. It is our way through this. Because that woman that sent me the message is so effing broken, it's not even funny. And by the way, I'm not going to win an argument with broken. Because we're using a logical dissertation in an argument of, you telling me that I'm wrong isn't going to make you more rightish. right? It's just not. Which leads me to the part that I want to share. The other time that I saw aggression were two women. And I have a picture of them, but I'm not going to show it here. I'm actually trying to track them down and have them on a podcast. They were together. One of their signs said "Love is love," and the other one said "She's a woman, not a law." And there was a man who likely lived in his mother's basement who was screaming at them. And I mean screaming. And I do have witnesses to this. All I did was stand there. And I'm like, nah. And he was screaming obscenities, telling them they're going to go to hell. They've broken God's law. And listen, I'm a Catholic. I know what a cafeteria Catholic is. We pick and choose our shit, right? But this guy couldn't read the room. That two women that loved each other and held signs up together. I mean, there are a couple of lesbians in Eastern Massachusetts. What else are you going to do on a Saturday? Just saying. And one of them was tall, just tall, thin, and she said, "I'm not putting up with you. Go away. I love her. You can't tell me anything different." By the way, she had her trauma. I'm sure she had her parents or her friends or her somebody that said, you're broken too. And this son of a bitch comes up and just reminds him on a sunny Saturday in the park, "You're going to hell. You're breaking God's law. God's going to get you." This guy was fucking relentless. He also didn't make any sense. Because nobody in the history of ever has ever come back to me or come to me in a reading saying, "I loved my husband. I'm a man and I loved my husband. And now that I'm dead, I'm in hell." 30,000 readings, not one of them said being gay is wrong. Not fucking one of them. It's called evidential mediumship. But you know what they do say? "I treated people like shit and I wasn't a good person." You know what they say? I should have learned my lesson while I was here. I know that I should have loved my children or my gay child. That's the shit they say in a reading when they cross over. Is it my bias? Yeah, okay. Go talk to 10 more mediums and see if any of them ever say God's law is correct when they spout it off. I stood there part in protection, but in all honesty, the one woman, she had it. She had it. And I said to her, I didn't like how aggressive he was. And her wife said, "Oh, she had it, don't worry." And I said, "Strength in numbers." And she goes, "You fucking get it." I go, "You got it." I caught up to my group. We had marginally okay pizza. I'm sorry, guys. It's a 5. It's a 5. They got to clean their thing. It was a 5. The slice of pizza was a 5. That's my opinion. Yeah. Thank you for that, Rita. Yeah, they were just mean. They were nasty. And it made me really realize that, like, any of these things that would erupt, like, we are 100%. We get it. I mean, we've already outsmarted them. And listen, I'm not going to go down an education rabbit hole. But what you learned and what you've been conditioned to, whether it's your education or lack of education, there I said it. is 100% the dividing line. Because if you're defending the unknown all the time, and I talk to dead people, guys, and I talk about evidential mediumship. If I'm standing there saying, here's your grandmother, and I don't say a goddamn thing about who your grandmother is to you or give you some validation, I am a crazy person spouting off and I'm full of shit. But if I hand you something and say, your grandmother's talking about the cameo, your mother has it, and for the love of God, you need to ask her for it. Because this is going to spark a conversation that the two of you need to have because you're not talking the way that your grandmother taught you. That's what that second email was about. She closed the loop on evidence by saying, okay, you're right. And by the way, my Leo rising loves those words. You're right, Brandon. Thank you. But at least this person was open. Hey, Mom, I saw a medium. They said something about Grandma's cameo and we need to talk. I would be 100% incorrect if I needed to be. But the fact that they sparked a conversation and they took their relationship in a better way here on Earth, I'm totally okay with that. Like 100%. I want to show you a few more pictures there because I had fun. And by the way, look for more trips with me. I'm planning a couple of different things. One of them will be to Manhattan. And by the way, you're going to be able to join us in Manhattan if you're in the greater borough districts. I am going to be doing a very cool live show down there in Manhattan. I've been working on that already. I also need to get back to Boston. I need to get back into the greater Boston area. I was reminded of that this morning as well. And Portland, I'm coming. The more I sit with it, basically, if Donald Trump sends National Guard, that's my tour next year. How about that? That would be weird. Now, don't go out and start a riot and be like, Trump, send him here. And Carolinas, don't worry. Don't worry, Elizabeth, I see you. So we saw this one. This was a really fun one. She was holding a sign that said, no kings. And she told me she was an Episcopalian reverend. And she told me that she's been marching against crap like this for almost 30 years because she was standing up for same-sex marriage. This is nothing new for her. She just loves to see the crowds the way they are now. Oh, by the way, here's a fun fact. 3.5% of the population actually came out to the protests. What does that mean? Political scientists put that 3.5% of the population as a very important number because that means that of that, by the way, there's an exasperated amount. In other words, there are going to be people that aren't going to be able to make the actual thing, right? Whether you got jobs, whether you're busy running the library, you're welcome. Whether you're a nurse, a responder, whatever. By the way, one of the funniest things that I saw was the Salem Fire Department basically still on a public campaign to say we never burn them. I thought that was fun. But when that number gets to 3.5% of the population, it means that quadruple number of that, if all things were equal, feel that the rooted sediment is deep. which means that when you get to 15% of a population, then you have the groundswell of people that are adamantly involved with them. So it's an extrapolated number, and it builds into basically the overthrow or the undercurrent. Now, the positive is we're getting more organized and we are standing up for ourselves. The bad news is this is when they pulled their bullshit. Pam Bondi just took to Congress and basically said that they were going to dismantle Antifa brick by brick. Where are the bricks, everybody? Stand tall. By the way, I'm working on my astrology report for next year. You can also buy a book connected to it. It's a workbook. It's really cool. Oh, also, did you guys know that today is a buy one, get one free day? I don't even know if I can do this or not. Oh, son of a gun. I don't have it on me. But if you go to the website, tbrandonruss.com, sign up for the astrology, invite a friend with you to take it together. Also, I have the same offer for the Strand this upcoming Sunday. Buy one ticket, get two. I want to reach more people. I want to connect with more people. So if you're thinking about an astrology class, this is the one. Sign up for it. Tell me who your friend is. I'll get them involved as well. Just letting you know, today's the only day. I'm terrible at this marketing thing all of a sudden. She's seen it before, everybody. And by the way, I love how I kind of missed this top part with the curse word in it. But this dude was hysterical. Angry bird. This was on one of the corners. I prefer my ice crushed. And by the way, this was not the busy side of the road. The other side was. And these guys were all about. They were fun. And I said, thank you for being here today. And he's like, absolutely. And by the way, I hope you see this, bud. I told you I have quite a few people that follow me here. Oh, yeah, and then this is me giving a drop-down, drag-out fun time here at the House of Seven Gables, which, by the way, is where they process immigrants. Which, by the way, is where they teach English as a second language, which is a requirement to get your naturalization immigration paperwork signed off on. By the way, every year they have a ceremony there on the lawn to swear people in that have gone through the immigration process. We had a fantastic tour guide who, by the way, this is his past life. He feels very tied to it. He spoke in the very present of self, like he had been through it. And he just embraced it. Aiden was the highlight for me in a lot of ways, because I was watching him relive or at least retell the stories of his past life connected to the property. It's pretty awesome. It was really cool. And I met some pretty awesome people. Right? Yeah, and those of you that don't know the story, I had reached out to the House of Seven Gables back in August. And I said, I'm going to do a show there in October. I have these couple of dates. How much for the rental? How much for whatever? Because I saw they you can rent it for events. My pitch went to the board. Because listen, I'm not a witchy medium. Like, let's just be honest. And quite frankly, ghosts scare me. I mean, I'm just being honest. I have a low threshold for that stuff. But I could support Salem and I could support an immigration center. That's why I wanted to go. After they told me the news and basically said, listen, the board would love to. The people that work here see ghosts all the friggin' time. We know that there's spirit here. You would be a lot of fun. But we can't do it. We're on the National Registry, blah, blah, blah. 2 weeks later, I get a call from an old friend of a kid that I coached. And she goes, hey, listen, I'm doing the Salem trip. What do you say you sign on and you're our entertainment on the way out there? Well, I happen to know quite a few things about the House of Seven Gables and Salem as a whole. By the way, it's part of the whole mediumship pass. Like, it wasn't my favorite class, but I needed to know what Proctor's Hill was. I needed to know that there were no witches actually burned in Salem. That is a very European thing. Yep. There was one that was crushed. There was one that was drowned, and the rest all hung. All 19 of them. Up on Proctor's Hill, and they never bothered to mark where Proctor's Overlook was. It's Overlook, not Hill. Until the landowner was like, he saw sketches of it. He found old pieces of wood. Drinking's not going to help that pizza. And then he went to the registry and said, I think this is Proctor's ledge. And sure enough, once they did some measurements and figured it out, and then they put a memorial to it, and he saged and blessed the site. They found a fragment of a bone, but they don't know if it was somebody that had been hung or otherwise. And they cleared and censed the property, and he has felt so much better being the steward of the property, right? So maybe Spirit was trying to drive me to the House of Seven Gables, which, by the way, was also part of my mom. Because when I was 13 years old, we went to Massachusetts, and we did all the touristy things, and I went to the House of Seven Gables. We went to the Witches Museum. We did whatever. And I texted my dad, and I was like, Dad, when did we come to the House of Seven Gables? When did we visit Salem? And he said, you were 13, and all you kept talking about was that you wanted to be a tour guide at the House of Seven Gables. Or maybe it was my upbringing that made me realize that I'm in a family that if you're not tolerant, you're doing it wrong. And maybe it was my struggle with faith all these years, or faux faith, as I was taught, that I needed to stand up for two people that loved each other. Or I needed to stand on the edge of corner of a protest and get that picture to make sure that they knew that they weren't alone. Or maybe it was to sit with somebody that was on the tour to let them know that their fiance misses them too. Or maybe it was to hang out with just some cool, awesome people. Maybe it was to give a shot in the arm for an idea of somebody that's really passionate about what she does. Maybe it was for me to get a reading and connect with someone who was, listen, she shouldn't have been in a mall doing 15-minute readings. Listen, there's a reason why I don't do those, guys. And by the way, I'm not knocking it. Listen, when you're first starting out, I say to everybody, do as many as you can, do as much as you can. Right? But maybe everything in your journey brings it to a moment of being perfect every day. Every day. You know, I say this to people now when they're struggling. Hey, you lost your job. All right, let it be perfect. Hey, your kid's screwing things up and messing up your house. Okay, let it be perfect. Hey, my so-and-so isn't following through with their whatevers and the what have yous. Okay, let it be perfect. Hey, I jammed 200 pounds in a 10-pound bag. Okay, let it be perfect. Maybe it was so my kid just sent me a text and said, Dad, your leftovers were awesome. I love you. I did not say he could have my leftovers. And quite frankly, when they come to the door, he'll be the first to go. I'm kidding. That was awful, Brenda. Oh my God, that was awful. Or maybe it was so that I could meet a vendor that made a watch. And this is a cool watch. Holy shit. And he literally started out by saying, so I made this watch because my mom really helped me get my business going, and she's blah blah blah. And I'm just like, take my fucking money. Just take my money. Take it. Just take it. Take it. And let me tell you, that watch was perfect. Had my family signia on it with the owls. I'd be okay if it disappeared if they actually cleaned it. Maybe I was supposed to be a little tired because I still needed to firm up some boundaries because somebody gave me a really hard time at a show yesterday. You know, the numbers, it wasn't anywhere near sold out, but I had some old friends there, and there was a woman that just didn't want to be read. She didn't want to do her work. There were two of them that were there that were like that. And again, grief is a funny thing, and one of them was really in a painful place because she lost her daughter, had to stay with her every day. It was rough, but she also had no social decorum and just wanted to make it about her. She wanted to stay in pain. The other one was a beacon of her community along with her husband, and she just wanted to hear one thing. She just wanted to hear one thing. Whoop, whoop. That's it, Brandon. You are full of shit unless you say this one thing. And I'm like, what's the deal with golf? What's the golf? And then she's like, nope, not golf. And I just struck out all over the place. It's a good thing we were filming it because it looked like bullshit. Why were they there then? Well, I just let it be perfect. I read everybody else in the room, and then I came back to her and I sat down and I'm like, there's not a lot, wasn't sold out. By the way, I do think it's funny. There is a national person coming to the Capital District, and people are raving about it. Can I say this out loud? You're going to pay $75 to $100 for a ticket. There's going to be 1,200 people there. That person, and again, Tyler's a good medium. I'm not saying this isn't a knock on his ability, but he's going to read 7 to 10 people. In Kirkland, with almost 70 people, I did 35 readings, almost 40. It's called quality. Anyways, so this woman sat there. Nope. And once she kind of opened up and she said, here's the phrase I was looking for. Okay. He was a gym teacher and wanted to win every game. And then we started to talk about his coaching style, which I said he thinks he's going to coach everybody. And had she actually listened for the rest of the reading, not listening for the one thing that she wanted to hear, which I don't know if I want to ever get good at that. This has been my contemplation. She went on to basically validate literally everything else, up to and including the fact that he was a golf coach. only to have her friend that brought her there pull a golf ball out of her pocket, who's their neighbor. And that was something that she had in common with her husband. But she didn't want to hear it. She got a great rating. She actually took up most of the day. Like an asshole. I will not let my leftovers be perfect. Oh my God, I will be suffering from indigestion right now. Hope he gets the shits. All right, anyway, so that's terrible, Brandon. I am a mandated reporter. I can't talk like that, but I knew you would laugh at it. Rita's like spitting her water everywhere. Anyways, so she got mad because she started to cry. And listen, it's not a good look when you're trying to show somebody up, right? It's kind of like sitting in the front row and going, you're playing it like a G chord and should be a B flat. It's like critique in the middle of it, right? But when people are in pain, they feel justified. They feel justified to send you a message about how wrong you are. And by the way, energetically, that woman was really no different than the one that sent me the message. They weren't ready to heal. They were going to avoid it. And they had things that they weren't willing to face, period. Every Trump supporter isn't facing what's right in front of them. From his involvement with Epstein to his emolument clause like denials to the election being incredibly fucking suspicious, all of it. They're not facing something because they don't want to be wrong. Well, this woman doesn't ever want to feel better. And I didn't give up on her because I knew the level and the depth of where she was at. And by the way, I was exhausted. I've been going for 6 days straight at that point. Today, I took a nap. I had a really good grilled cheese sandwich. I don't know if you know this or not, but my grilled cheese sandwiches, wow, just wow. I found this jalapeno spread. Anyways, so I kind of had to chill. I'm doing a couple of things for tomorrow's classes. Godspeed. By the way, tomorrow's weekly B is on the circadian rhythm, which is why when I turn off these lights, I'm going to sleep. Full circle. But I knew she was in there. I knew what she was saying was help me. The guy that was yelling at the same-sex couple was deep-rooted and angry, and I wasn't gonna help him. The woman that was giving me a hard time that wouldn't let me in was hurt. By the way, the other woman that just wanted to criticize me and talk shit about me as soon as I walked across the room, no soup for you. You are not welcome. I'll work with anybody. And by the way, light workers, we have to learn how to work with anybody and still have boundaries. Because we also have to say, we're not going to put up with it. But we're also going to say, I understand where you're at. So what I've learned in this week is the nuance of when somebody needs help, where's my energy supposed to go? Right? No, Salem didn't suck. No. Hey, Anne, how are you? By the way, I'm now on page 7. I'm a bit of a slow reader. No. Salem was interesting. It was good. The whole trip itself was fantastic. This was at a show where somebody was really, really kind of tough to read, Oh, Christina, that is so Elvis of you. Put bananas on it. Which, by the way, I just found my taking care of business shirt. Um, Jade is riveting. And thanks for the teaser. But I think what I've learned is that, and here's your reminder, what we're going to be facing is we're dealing with people that are hurt. They're just hurt. They might be hurt because they were promised things that didn't come through. They might be hurt because they finally, I mean, I think most of Trump supporters are people that have been lied to for so long that for whatever, they're finally like, here's somebody that I think sees me, even though every logical component of what he does, what he says, and what he's about has nothing to do with what a common person would ever feel connected to. But if you're broken enough, he's a golden calf. So, as light workers, we need to remember there's going to be people that are going to want to stay broken. It's not our job. Also, even when they're willing to work, know that you're just a piece of it. You're not the whole picture. Because if you take on the responsibility fully of somebody's healing, you are in the wrong spot. You're not going to be able to keep going. You're just not. And by the way, I just talked about 4 different archetypes of people. Right? Yeah, Sandra, they tore down the rose garden to put in a lavish, gold-laden whatever. And I am telling you, when this goes down, that's going to burn. And I'm not telling anybody to burn anything. But my God, are you kidding me? What arrogance. What lack of conceptualization of history, of respect for the position, respect for the Constitution. Like, just the Supreme Court's bought and sold. Our Congress should be wearing, what do you call it, advertising jackets. Like, we've lost the plot. We have lost the plot. He's just taking advantage of it. You know, he's the 5-year-old kid that wants the cookie and keeps stealing it. Listen, we're a 250, 270 something year country. We had to go through some growing pains eventually. Listen, tone deafening. Got it. And I love it when a Canadian goes in. Oh my gosh. I didn't realize that was part of it, Sandra Lee. Yeah, you know, it's interesting when you watch all of the symbolic things that he tears down. I mean, listen, he's a convicted felon that didn't do had no retribution. Why would he have respect for all the other laws attached to it? Nothing applies to him. Nothing. Nothing applies to him. And therefore, people are going to grift on him because they want nothing to apply to them. They don't want the pain of their loss. They don't want the pain of their work. They don't want the discomfort of, being told, by the way, the everything that an immigrant would get in this country. Do we pay for it? Sure. Amounts to less than 18 cents out of your paycheck yearly. Caring for immigrants for decades has been done efficiently. Law enforcement of people that do something wrong has been handled efficiently. By the way, that doesn't mean bad people aren't here. It doesn't mean that some people get through the cracks. The immigration problem in this country is a legal issue. It is a process and a system issue. It has stayed purposely broken for a long time. If they threw money at this, they would have solved it in 10 minutes. We'd have gotten the people that shouldn't be here out by natural attrition. But now let me ask you this. Biden didn't deal with it. Obama didn't deal with it. Bush didn't deal with it. Clinton didn't deal with it. Bush didn't deal with it. Reagan, Carter, Ford, Nixon, none of them dealt with it. Isn't a broken system the telltale of someone that's up to something? By the way, in case you were wondering, there was a dramatic, and I do mean dramatic, shift in the crypto coin market about a week ago. Donald Trump scared the market by shifting gold quotas. Barron Trump made $80 million in 72 hours. Let that sink in. By the way, did you make that money? No, you didn't have the forewarning to invest in that. And by the way, that is part of the reason why that whole crypto thing is going to fall apart. By the way, these are hurt people. They're broken. They are not dealing with the broken. They're just trying to feed their adrenaline monkey to feel better about it. That's why they do America, and here's my big flag hanging off the back of my truck. God and Jesus and this country are the only things that are real. So when people defend them, the answer is no longer, I can't believe you support a pedophile, which is true. Why don't you ask the question, why do you feel broken enough to see this happening right in front of you and want to be a part of it? Because to them, this is the light. You got to be pretty upset, pretty disturbed, pretty broken to think this is great. He grifted on pain. He grifted on hurt people. He grifted on people that didn't have the tools or the agency to pull themselves out of pain. You know, educated people. People that might not know the answers, but know enough to say, hey, I need some help over here. How do I do this? Sandra Lee makes sense. Oh, perfect, K. Eric. Trump is hurting us the way that he felt hurt. That man has never received a hug. He blathers on. Can't say the word acetaminophen. And everybody's talking about how unwell he is. Guys, he's been unwell for 78 years. This isn't a new development. He just wears diapers again. It's going to be our job to rebuild this. It's going to be our job to care for the people that can't care for themselves and don't want to do the work. Point out that they're not willing to do the work. Because it's an easy out when you say, you just believe in the lies of the BBC? I stand corrected, Hinda. Good to see you, Hinda. Soul sick people. We can go down the rabbit hole on all of them. The reason why I got a really shitty, borderline threatening message was because of Donald Trump, his administration, and everything that he stands for. Okay. I love to see the numbers. I love to see people support one another. And by the way, within those groups, we disagree with stuff. Good. Salem, Massachusetts was a cautionary tale. The Puritans came from England because of religious persecution, because they wanted religious freedom. And a lot of people are like construing religious freedom to be like, I want to do whatever it is that I want. In a sense, sure. But you've got to understand that the Puritans left England because they weren't strict enough. They were like, you might be a little bit about God, but we's really about God's. The entire Salem witch trial happened because two girls were exposed to another culture and they didn't know how to handle it. They had a housekeeper named Tituba who dropped an egg white into water and it formed a shape, and they used their imagination for the first time. They thought they saw a coffin and all of a sudden got the EBGBs. And oh, by the way, it was a very wet summer. What happened in the wet summer? The grain was covered in yeast, and therefore they started to itch and they started to feel like the devil was in them. Now, these girls had like, do you remember the first time you were ever creative or you learned how an instrument worked? You were like, shit, this is a whole new world. Well, to them, the whole new world was a creative way of life, taking creative liberties. And by the way, their dad and the uncle, because it was two girls, it was a niece and a daughter, was in trouble. They were going to kick him out as pastor because he hadn't done anything right. But now he's got two paranoid girls that are now using creativity. And then they accused Tituba of witchcraft. All she did was show him a cultural thing. But because they were so ignorant and they only had one book on the shelf, these girls didn't know how to handle it. They didn't know what creativity was. So when Tituba got accused of witchcraft, she read the room. She knew what survival was like. By the way, if you admitted to witchcraft, you just did a little time in the slammer, right? Tituba valued her life over being righteous. She's like, these fucking white people are crazy. Yeah, sure. And Tituba, queen of creativity in this story, turned around and said, the devil showed me several names in a book. I know them when I see them. And all of a sudden, she's naming people. She's like, there's other people in the village. The devil showed me. Tituba lived another day, but guess what? The scare was on. Then the girls were like, you know what? I saw this one dancing naked in the moonlight with a goat, which, by the way, next field trip, everybody, good night. Mwah. These girls were using their creative, license that they just learned how to be creative in some level. And oh, by the way, they had a yeast infection. They were accusing everybody. And by the way, when you got accused, you went on trial. How long have you, and by the way, they would use things called spectral evidence, which was basically God told me or spirit told me, which by the way is absolute bullshit in mediumship. That's why we talk about evidence all the time. If you get a reading and somebody's so non-specific that you're like, absolutely none of that works, none of that specific, they're full of shit and tell them to retire immediately or go back to school and work on it. Genuinely, we have no room for shysters. We have enough shysters in the world right now. But the spectral evidence was getting people hung. You're getting hung because you didn't admit to it. Right? Sarah Good, I am no more a witch than you are a wizard. Know that quote, don't you? Or was it John Bouchard that basically, or oh God, that's not his name. John, who basically turned to them while they were putting kilograms of weight on his back that was crushing him to death, and in defiance he said, "More weight." Or was it the midwife that was drowned because infant mortality rate was at about 20%? And she had one child die because natural causes. But now all of a sudden she's a witch because she was 30 years old and a baby died. Clearly she's bantering in witchcraft. I am not a witch. I've saved everybody in this town. Gurgle, gurgle, gurgle. Where's the history lessons in all of this? I mean, I'll be goddamned if Stephen Miller isn't reincarnate of some sort of Red Scare Salem witch trial. And by the way, the Scarlet Letter, the Scarlet Letter was about the Red Scare, or at least the movie took on the feel of the Red Scare. The Scarlet Letter was about the paranoia of being singled out and accused of something. And when Nathaniel Hawthorne, who, by the way, was the United States' first great writers, he was born in a house that got moved to the house next to the House of Seven Gables. But he was born in that house. It was born in Salem. He called it out and said, "You are all paranoid, and who are you to throw the stone?" That's why you have to study history. That is why you have to be good at. If you're going to do mediumship and you don't understand history, they're not going to understand half of what they're showing you. Mm. I guess so, Linda. But I want to thank you guys for tuning in. I'll have more mailbag stuff, and I hope I have better emails that are kind of fun. Because like I said, most of them are really, really cool. And I want to thank you guys for coming along. By the way, last chance, jump in. The astrology class starts tomorrow. I'm going to show you the equation on how you can understand astrology over and over again, whether it's Penny talking about it, whether it's me talking about it, whether it's any astrologer talking about it. I'm going to show you the combination. You're going to be able to follow along with all of your YouTube watching to understand astrology a lot quicker. Go figure. All right, guys, I'm going to give you the heart tap. Remind everyone to love one another. Simply keep going. I'll talk to you guys soon. Conscious Becoming Wednesday night. Our guest is secured. Send in an email soon. See you guys. Keep going.